So it seems that of all the various things I've covered and people I've spoken to on this channel, what people really want is more Age of Barbarian. And since we recently crossed the 100 sub mark, thanks to all of you for that, by the way, now's a perfect time to check back in on the land of blood, boobs, and broadswords.
Arena, an Age of Barbarian Story.
If the original Age of Barbarian is a side-scrolling adventure game, Arena is a one-on-one fighting game largely inspired by the original Commodore 64 game Barbarian from back in '87. Long story short, an evil wizard named Zordax has conquered the kingdom of Scaran, captured King Zodan, and enslaved the Oracle Queen Yana, who prophesied the coming of a hero who would defeat him. Now, as a dual eclipse approaches and time is running out, you select one of several warriors to do just that. Make your way through a gauntlet of battles, obstacles, and traps, slay the sorcerer, and save the girl, all the while accompanied by a rock and heavy metal soundtrack. Classic stuff. Naturally, Rahan and Shayna are along for the ride, along with a bunch of other characters inspired by the annals of sword and sorcery. You've got Scion the Berserker, Jungle Girl and blonde bombshell Ayla, Mombata and Zula, who've made their way from Conan the Destroyer with a bit of a name change, and 2 extra DLC characters available for $1 or $2, She-Red and the Deathbringer. 3 guesses who inspired them, first 2 don't count. Each character has their own strengths and weaknesses in terms of offense, defense, speed, and reach, but otherwise play similarly with the same control scheme, so once you get a handle on one, you'll be able to play them all relatively easily. Speaking of playing, Arena shares Age of Barbarians gameplay with a few caveats. First, there are no experience or RPG mechanics. All your moves are unlocked from the start, no leveling required, including a special move unique to each hero that can be used once their power bar gets filled up. Secondly, there's no inventory, although the crowds watching you fight do throw stuff into the battle to spice things up. Health potions, damage-increasing runes, bombs, ouch, and very rarely gold coins that are your only source of extra credits. Just make sure your opponent doesn't get to them before you do. Also, the parrying mechanic has been changed up, allowing you to hold it continuously but requiring you to switch between high and low blocks to stop incoming blows. The other big change is, of course, the whole arena part of Arena. The game consists of a series of semi-randomly selected one-on-one fights against a variety of enemies, separated by equally random traps and obstacle course sections. The latter 2 involve a variety of nasty, painful ways to die if you mess up, which you're going to want to avoid because you're on the clock to save the queen, and every time you continue will cost you either a credit or 10 minutes off the timer. And when that runs out, Eclipse happens, Sorcerer gobbles up her soul, and that's all she wrote. If you do get past those, you'll eventually face off against Zordax's main enforcer, Khan Dread, a big purple bastard who hits fast, hits hard, and regenerates if you don't keep laying on the pain. Beat him and you'll get dropped into a dungeon where, with a little exploring, you'll be able to get a key from the jailer, free Zodan, and finally kick some sorcerer ass. However, if Khan Dread beats you, you'll be taken away and need to break out of said dungeons yourself, which unfortunately will lock you into a bad ending. Mind you, this does bring me to a point of contention about this game. It's very short. You can easily finish a run in 20 to 30 minutes depending on the difficulty level, which, among other things, influences the amount of health recovered between fights. The different characters have different endings, and there is a 2-player versus mode, so there is some replay value, but what's on offer is still more limited compared to the previous Age of Barbarian game in spite of the randomized elements. What isn't limited is the amount of gore and TNA on display, as befits an entry into this series, up to and including getting your character laid should you get their good ending. Just be prepared for some unremovable blurs in the latter case, because when this was released, Steam's rules on the subject were a little up in the air, and Crian didn't want to risk getting the game booted. You know how it is. So, is Arena as good as Age of Barbarian? Well, depends on what you're expecting. It's plenty fun in its own right, but does feel a bit perfunctory compared to its predecessor. But provided you can keep your expectations in check, it's well worth trying out, especially since it's only $10 at full price. Plus, the next game is going to be starring Yana and Zodan, so getting to know those two is probably a good idea. In any case, if you played Age of Barbarian and were hungry for more, a trip to the arena for some sword and sorcery action might just be what you're looking for.